All right, good morning, guys. Welcome to Monday morning. Um, see if there's anybody in here. Nobody's in here yet, but just wait a few minutes here. We'll be talking about the digestive system today. Hopefully, you had a chance to look at the video that Mr. Canelo and I put out on the um, the video on the digestive system, and I'll explain some of your projects for this week. So, welcome Monday morning. Hopefully, I got one person in here. If you want to say hello, just wait for a few more. We'll be talking, like I said, about the digestive system today. Okay, a couple more people joining in. Excellent. If you want to say hello, welcome. Monday morning on Ferko TV here. All right. Oh, we got Mr. Canaloo. Okay, excellent. How you doing there, Mr. Canaloo? All right, Chris Morales. Good to see you. Excellent. All right, we got a few people in here. Excellent, excellent. Welcome Monday morning here. So we're going to talk about the digestive system today. Hopefully you had a chance to see our video that Mr. Kenaloo and I put out this week. Okay, we got Talon. Good morning, good morning. Excellent. Welcome Monday morning. Hopefully I got some smiling faces. Hopefully you had a chance to get out this weekend, do some hiking or do something outside. I know you guys had the plant project, so those were getting turned in, and good job on getting those turned in. I got a good amount turned in from the weekend here. So we'll go ahead and get started on the digestive system and what that is. And then you could ask any questions as you go along here. I'll be checking my sidebar as I continue talking here. A couple projects due by the end of this week. We'll have a travel brochure, and I'll explain that a little later on the digestive system due Friday, along with a brain pop. I assigned some brain pops to you guys, or just one brain pop on the digestive system. I know some of you guys had some problems with the brain pop. Okay. Looks like we have a few other people in here. I know, Talon, you had an issue with the brain pop. Oh yeah, the end of the video, I know that kind of got cut out, I think, on when I was speaking about the project, and I'm going to talk about that today, so I'll explain that later on in today's presentation. So I'll go ahead and get started on the digestive system and then tell you what you need to know and what you need to do for this week. So going on to the digestive system. The digestive system prepares food for all of the body cells. Okay, it helps going from the process of eating. If you saw the beginning part of the video, I was eating something, and then as it gets moved throughout the body to different organs and gets processed. So digestion is the chemical breakdown of complex molecules into the components and parts. So these complex molecules are from lipids to fats. We talked about those in cells when we were studying cells, lipids, and fatty acids. Proteins to individual amino acids. When amino acids are proteins there from like ATP from sugar, from the mitochondria, what we studied. All right, and carbohydrates into simple sugars. Okay, so these are some things that digestion is part of this process of the breakdown. So what is its functions of the digestive system? It produces various chemicals to break down food. It filters out harmful substances, and it gets rid of solid waste. So that's the three main functions of the digestive systems. It prepares food to be broken down chemically. It gets rid of and filters out harmful substances, and it gets rid of solid waste. So those are the three main important parts there. All right, like I said, you can ask questions as we go along on here. Looks like I have about 5 people, including Mr. Canaloo, in here for right now. So good morning. Welcome Monday morning. So just giving you the basic definition on digestion. Now, we talked about a part in the video I was talking about whenever you chew. Okay, when you're chewing, and breaking down food when you're eating. All right, you're tearing, you're cutting, you're grinding, you're mashing, you're mixing that food in your mouth. Okay, and that's called mechanical digestion. That's the part of the digestion where you're actually breaking down those small particles. So it changes the physical form of the food. So the apple no longer looks like an apple, or a pear, or steak. Some of the things I had on my tray no longer look like that as they're in my mouth. They start to break apart. They're in the eating process. So they're chewing, tearing, grinding, mashing. We call that mechanical digestion. Okay. All right. Now, the chemical part of the digestion, actually, as those pieces are broken down, it forms into another part of the digestion process called the chemical digestion. So these are changes that they're chemically compositions of food with the aid of digestive enzymes. So these are enzymes that are actually help breaking down that food when you're cutting and you're tearing and you're chewing those parts. All right. They are broken down from carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, or some of those enzymes that are helping break down those foods. So digestive enzymes are special proteins that help break up large molecules of food into tiny molecules that can be absorbed and used by cells in the form of nutrition, where you're going to get that basic energy to get that action that you need throughout the day. Okay. All right. Excellent. So, any questions so far? I'm just kind of giving you the breakdown of what digestion is. I just talked a little bit about chemical versus mechanical digestion. So, the chemical part is that it's actually getting broken down by those enzymes as they're getting pushed through the next part, which will be into your esophagus. We'll kind of go through each of the functions and what they are on the digestive system here. All right. So some phases of digestion. The first part, these are just phases. So you don't have to know, these are not definitions or anything like that. You're ingesting. Okay. So you're taking that food in. All right. So you're actually, just like I said, you're chewing, you're cutting, you're tearing. And that's also the next phase it goes into is the movement of the food, where that's actually getting moved and broken down into those chemical processes into your throat, where your tongue is helping to push it down into that and break down that food in the chemical process where it's going to go down your esophagus. All right, and then it goes into the next phase, which would be the digestion, where that food's moving into the other organs that we're going to kind of go one by one through. Okay, and then finally it would go into absorption, where it is absorbed in some of your organs in your digestive system, and then it goes into further digestion, where it will come out as waste. So we'll kind of talk about how that's going and push through each of those processes. All right, so then the digestive tract, okay, is a long muscular tube made with many sections and areas. Okay, so it begins in the mouth and it ends in the rectum or anus. Okay, where it comes out. So that's where the digestive system begins and ends. So it's a long muscular tube. Okay, just keep going back and checking my sidebar here, see if there's anyone asking questions on the side. So this is a good time to ask anything that you may have while I'm still presenting. So I'm going back and forth and checking that. All right, so um, that's the main part of the digestive tract. Okay, is the long muscular tube. All right, and begins with the mouth and ends with the rectum or anus, where food's broken down. All right, so going down through each of some of the main parts of the digestive tract, like I said, the mouth. Okay, there's an area called the pharynx, which is an area like a flap before it gets into the esophagus, behind the tongue that helps push and break down food. All right, the esophagus is the long tube going down. Okay, all right, then the stomach, small intestine, large intestine. These are just some of the general parts. Okay, some accessory parts, organs that help break down this food. These are organs that are not in the digestive system, but help in the digestive process, like your teeth. Okay, not really considered. It's an accessory process, so it helps with the process of digestion. Your tongue, your salivary glands, which produce saliva in your mouth. When you have that saliva, is like when you're able to build up spit. Okay, that helps to push that down. It's like a watery substance. All right, and within inside your mouth. All right, your liver, your gallbladder, and your pancreas are some of the other accessory organs that are not necessarily part of the digestive tract, but they help in the process of digestion. Okay, so we'll kind of go through each one of these organs there too. Okay, so your mouth, all right, is one of the main functions of the digestive system. So that's where food enters in the mouth, in the oral cavity. It's for tasting. We have taste buds. We could taste a variety of different types of food. Some things that are sweet, the things that are bitter, sour. So those are some words that can describe what they may taste. When we did our senses of taste earlier this year, those are just part of our five senses. So tasting is one of our five senses when we use in science. Even though we don't taste many things in a science classroom, tasting is also very important when it comes to things for this body system. Mechanical breakdown of food. Okay, so that's what your mouth does. It's the mechanical. It's the chewing, the cutting, the tearing, the grinding of the food. And then it turns into the chemical part, which is the secretion of the salivary glands. So they call that salivary amylase is the protein or the enzymes in your mouth that help break down that food. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Nope, just going back and forth here, checking my sidebar here, making sure there's any questions while I'm talking about certain things here. Okay, moving on, continuing on with the mouth. All right, structures in the mouth that aid digestion, like I mentioned, your teeth, cutting, tearing, crushing, grinding the food. Salivary glands, okay? That's your saliva. They produce and secrete saliva in your oral cavity. Oral is your mouth, okay? So that's where that's produced there. All right, and then it produces salivary amylase, okay, which is an enzyme that begins the digestion of starch into smaller, what they call polysaccharides, which is a breakdown of that food. Okay, so that is the digestion process with the enzymes helping break that down. So your mouth has the teeth and your salivary glands that produce salivary amylase, and those are the probably most important parts of that area. Okay, where food enters, it's cut, it's broken down, and it's going to go to the next phase. Okay, so all right, the tongue, okay, actually mixes and rolls food into tiny mashed up bits. Okay, so your tongue is also an important part as well. Like I said, it's just an aid to the digestion process, so it's going to help push and roll food and mash things into smaller bits. They call that the bolus, is the name for it. So it pushes the bolus towards the pharynx and into the esophagus when swallowing. So these are some other little structures there within the throat area. The pharynx, which is with another name within the throat. Okay, into that area. Okay, so then there's mechanisms of swallowing. So these are going to be some ways that help push the food further down into the throat. So we're kind of like right up here talking about the teeth and the salivary glands, breaking that down in the tongue, and then food's going to kind of go further down into what we call the esophagus and the windpipe, and we'll kind of go into that area here next. Okay, so swallowing is a coordinated activity of the tongue, okay, a soft palate of the pharynx and the esophagus. Now, here's some of the phases. Food is pushed into the pharynx by the tongue, so it's actually voluntary actions that help that push that back. Okay, the tongue blocks the mouth. Okay, all right, and the larynx is also the larynx is a little different than the pharynx. The larynx is actually your Adam's apple. Okay, this area right here. Okay, and it rises. So the epiglottis behind that, okay, inside the mouth, there's an area called the epiglottis. It's a flap or tissue that could close the opening of the trachea, like that's part of your windpipe there too. The trachea helping you breathe. Okay, so these are some aids of swallowing as the food is getting pushed down from mechanical digestion into chemical digestion from the breakdown of those proteins. It's going to pass through the pharynx, and then it's going to go into the area of this flap of the epiglottis. It's going to eventually push that further down. Okay, all right. Any other questions here so far? Let's see. Anybody else? Okay, we got a couple other people in here. Oh, a couple questions. Let's see here. Do animals' digestive system work differently than humans, or they work basically the same? That's a good question. I believe that is, I want to say Jana. All right. I think that's yours on there. Very good. Their digestive systems is very similar to ours, yet they work a little bit differently. Their process of digesting food might take a little bit different. They might be a little faster or a little slower, depending on the size of the animal. So that's a good question. If the question was, Jana asked, do animals' digestive systems work differently from humans, or they work basically the same? They work in the same fashion of the process going down through a lot of those parts. It's just that their timing of the digestion might be different. Okay. All right, Faith is on here. Hello, Jordan. Hello. Okay, so very good. Thanks for keep conversations amongst the class here. So no side talk or anything like that. So make sure the questions are pertaining to the lesson. So don't have to. Please do not talk to friends in here. So just so I can see what's on the chat. So make sure you're keeping it to a minimum there. All right, so we're moving on to the next phase here, with is the esophagus right here. Okay, where food's getting pushed down into the esophagus. This is a straight muscular tube that's 10 inches long, about 10 inches, about that long. All right, so it connects the mouth with the stomach. So that's kind of goes even further down into the stomach. So it's going to go into the chest area there too. So food takes about 4 to 8 seconds as it passes through to the stomach. So that's pretty fast as it's getting pushed down that tube. So it's always good to chew your food. They say 100 times before you swallow. So that's one of the rules of thumb I remember growing up. So you don't want to choke on your food that way. So as you're in the swallowing process, all right, its walls contain smooth muscles that contract in a waving motion in the esophagus. There's little waves in the muscles that help push it down. They call that peristalsis, is the name of those muscles that help use that wave motion to push that food down. Now the peristalsis propels food and liquid quickly down the esophagus into the stomach. Okay, and then that's where it relaxes and allows food into the stomach of that. The peristalsis kind of pushes it through into the stomach. So those are like little wavy motions of the smooth muscles that help push it into the stomach. Okay, so that is the peristalsis, which is inside the muscular, smooth muscle parts inside the esophagus. So you might want to jot that down as a name for that. Okay. All right, now going on into the stomach where food's going to go to next. So we already went through the mouth, and it's pushed down through the pharynx, the epiglottis, the flap, and then in the esophagus. And now the food is entering into the stomach. The stomach is a J-shaped sac. It kind of looks like the letter J. Okay, so it's in that J shape. All right, it has inner folds. All right, called rugae. That's the name of it. All right, and that increases the surface area of the stomach. So the inner folds increases the surface area of the stomach. Now, in this area, the stomach churns and grinds together the bolus into smaller pieces. Okay, all right. So that's where your food, the bolus, is broken down into smaller pieces. It's churning and it's grinding. Now, food is then mixed with gastric juices. All right, they have hydrochloric acid and enzymes secreted in by the stomach walls. Okay, within the stomach. So that's an important area there. Hydrochloric acid and enzymes, they help mix that and they secrete that in the stomach walls. So they call it HCl, hydrochloric acid, helps break down food and kills bacteria that came along with the food. So your food always is going to have some kind of bacteria on your food, mostly all food. All right, but we have bacteria within our stomach that help fight against that and push some of those bad parts out, and they operate with other organs within the digestive system that help to release that, like the liver and the gallbladder and stuff like that, which I'll get into eventually here too. All right, let's see, any other questions? Okay, we got Carly in here. Very good. All right, let's see, we have Gavin's in here. Okay, well, welcome. Good morning. Okay, let's see. Yes, Faith asked, when is this project going to be due? Friday. I'm going to be trying to keep it on a weekly basis, kind of keeping the same format that we have here. Well, I'll present earlier in the week, like Monday through Wednesday, and then your activities are going to be due Friday. Even though we don't have school Friday, I'll still have them sent to my email because we have no school Friday because of Good Friday for the school holiday this week. So you could still send your projects in by Friday or before Friday. So, and I'll explain the project later on in this lecture. So I'm just kind of going over the parts of the digestive system right now. If you just tuned in. You can always go back and listen to these. I'll be live a few times today. So I'll be live today at this time, and then 1 to 2, and then 5 to 6. Okay, so I'll be kind of talking about the same things over again here as well. All right, so we were just talking about the stomach, okay, how it uses the food is mixed with gastric juices, the hydrochloric acid and enzymes that help break down food to kill the bacteria that come along with the food. Okay, all right. So, like I said, the stomach is a J-shaped structure. Okay, and that's the main process is it's mixed with hydrochloric acid and enzymes that help break down the food, and it gets rid of the harmful bacteria. Now, a couple other things that are found within the stomach. There's another organ or enzyme, I should say, a major enzyme called pepsin. All right, like Pepsi. all right, with the word with letter N at the back. So pepsin is the name of this enzyme. It converts proteins into peptides in the presence of HCl, which is a hydrochloric acid. Okay, all right. Um, there's also mucus in the stomach too, which lubricates food and protects the gastric linings from the strong digestive juices. All right. And it also converts the bolus into a liquid. And they call that chyme. That liquid is called chyme, CHYME. After 4 hours of mechanical and chemical digestion, the chyme passes through the area into the small intestine. It helps break this down and push it to the next area as chyme. So you might have to, that's an important word. I think you'll probably see that. I did assign a brain pop to you guys. So you'll have a brain pop. Let's see, a couple other questions. What is the project? Okay, I'll get to that later in the podcast on some of the projects. I just want you to pay attention to some of the topics of this here, just the vocabulary and some of the organs that we're studying here. Okay, so yeah, I know that Faith. There was no video on the video that was cut out when I was speaking of the what to do for the project, and I'll say that on here. All right. Yeah, the projects will be on Teams. I'll put it on Microsoft Teams, Gavin. So good job asking and answering questions as we're doing this. If you have any questions about some of these parts I'm talking about on the digestive system, like the organs itself, let me know here too. Okay, so the movement of the stomach, movements in the stomach, like I said, it's kind of pushing the food, the chyme, the hydrochloric acid, they're actually pushing these enzymes through, all right, into the small intestine. So we're from the stomach, food's then going to the small intestine. So I'm talking about where the area of foods are going to, all right. Um, the small intestines is actually really larger than the large intestine, so it's very long. It's about 20 feet long. It's a coiled tube beneath the stomach, so it gets passed to that area. It has three parts to it. The duodenum is the upper part. All right, it's about 10 inches long and it's connected to the stomach. And this is where digestive juices from the pancreas and liver combine with chyme, making it thin and watery. So it waters that area down, okay, in the small intestine. All right, and then it goes to the duodenum, which is about 8 feet long of that section part, and then the ileum, which is about 12 feet long. So those are the longer parts of the small intestine. You don't have to know those parts. Those are the three parts of the small intestine, but note itself has it's about 20 feet in length. All right, the first part, the upper part, is probably the most common part, the 10-inch part, which is just very small. That's the duodenum. That's where the digestive juices from the pancreas and the liver combine to make make it watery and thin. Okay, food is becoming watery and thin, so it's actually breaking down into water substances at this point. Okay, all right. So that's the small intestines. All right, it's the site of the greatest amount of digestion and absorption. So the greatest amount of digestion and absorption is in the small intestine, which, like I said, is much larger than the large intestine. So that is that area. Um, it takes about 4 to 8 hours to complete this journey, okay, in the small intestine with food in this process of breaking down. So that's quite a long time. It's probably almost half your day there, 4 to 8 hours here. Not a whole day, but like a work day, I guess. That might be as you digest, like being at school. Okay, so that's a pretty long time while you're digesting that food. All right. Um, there's an area called the inner wall in the small intestine called the mucosa, and the mucosa secretes several enzymes that act on food. Okay, then in the mucosa. And this is where the pancreatic enzymes are emptied into. All right, and it's digested, nutrients are absorbed through the intestinal wall. And it absorbs materials across the mucosa into the blood and the other parts of the body for storage and further chemical change. Okay, so I'm just talking about the small intestine at this point. All right, so let's see any other questions so far. I'm checking my sidebar here as I'm going on to this too. All right, moving on. On the small intestines, it has folded inner walls covered with finger-like projections called villi. okay, or villus for being plural. Each villus has tinier projections called microvilli that absorbs digested food inside the small intestine. So the villi and the microvilli increase the surface area of the small intestine for greater absorption. So this is the process. Remember, majority of the absorption and digestion part happens in the small intestine. And the peristalsis, remember I talked about that earlier? Those are those small cardiac muscles that help for the movement of the food from the esophagus. They're also found in some of the linings. It moves the undigested food to the large intestine. So that's how it's getting pushed through. Okay, just like from your esophagus getting pushed down into the stomach, and in the stomach to the small intestine. Now we're at the small intestine where it's going to go into the large intestine for the next part of this journey here. Okay, all right, so let's move on, continuing with some of the movements of the small intestine. We're still talking about small intestine at this point. All right, so that's where we are at. Okay. All right. The in the small intestine, mixing happens. Okay, the segmental contractions that occur in the small intestines, secretions. That's meaning that things are being digested and they're liquefying, they're lubricating, they're getting pushed on. Okay, digestion is part of meaning mechanical and chemical in this process, and absorption means the movement from the tract into circulation. Okay, so it's absorbing. It's moved from the tract into circulation. Absorb. That's what absorption means. It's circulating and it's moving from that tract. All right, and then finally elimination, which we'll get into. That's the waste product removed from your body. Okay. All right. All right. Now that food, as it's getting pushed and it's absorbed. Remember, it takes 4 to 8 hours in this small intestine, which was the larger part. Okay, it's getting pushed into the large intestines. This is our next organ in the digestive system. All right. It's also known as, AKA, the colon is another name for the large intestine. So the colon is another name for the large intestine. Now, it's large in diameter, but it's shorter in length. It's only about 5 feet long, but it's larger because it has a larger diameter. It's thicker, okay, than the small intestine. The small intestine is small, like it's longer, but it's like thinner. Okay, so that's how the difference is between the two. Water is absorbed from the undigested food, making waste harder until it becomes solid. So waste stays for 10 to 12 hours, okay, in the large intestine. So after that 4 to 8 hours, as it's getting absorbed, it's getting pushed into this area, into the large intestine, okay? All right, so we're on the large intestine and some of its functions here. All right, so any other questions? I'm just coming back and forth here, checking my sidebar. All right, no questions at this moment. Okay, continuing on. All right, so the large intestine is waste as waste is pushed into the expanded portion of the rectum of the large intestine. Solid waste stays in the rectum until it is excreted. All right, through to the anus as feces as you go to the bathroom. Okay. The appendix hangs on the right side of the intestines as well, and this also aids in the large intestine for some of this pushing process of that solid waste. Okay, all right, so that is the large intestines there. Now, some accessory organs. Remember, I talked about accessory organs. These are organs that aid in the organs of the digestive system. They help with the process. So the main organs that we mainly talked about were the mouth, okay, the teeth in the mouth for cutting and grinding, your esophagus, okay, or even the epiglottis in your pharynx. Those are parts of your throat there, all right, and then the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, then the rectum. All right, but these other organs we're going to study and we're going to learn about because they kind of work in aid with them, and that's why I would like you to include these in your project as well too. So these are some of the accessory organs. They produce or store enzymes that help in digestion. So the liver is one of them. All right, the liver is the largest gland of the body. Okay, it stores vitamins A, D, E, and K. Those are vitamins: vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K within the liver. Okay, and it stores sugar and glycogen. Okay, and it produces a watery greenish substance called bile. You might have heard of that before. Bile is a watery greenish substance. So this creates bile to the gallbladder, via the cystic duct as well. You don't have to really know about the cystic duct, but the gallbladder is another organ that we'll talk about there too. Okay, so it secretes bile and it moves it to the gallbladder. Okay, now the gallbladder stores the bile between meals. Okay, when you're eating between breakfast and lunch, dinner, all right, from the times you eat throughout the day. All right, so the bile is in stored between the meals in the gallbladder, and it secretes secretions of the bile to the duodenum through the bile duct during mealtime. Okay, so the bile contains salts, pigments, cholesterol, phospholipids. These are some enzymes that we talked about. All right. So they also help dissolve the fat and watery contents of the intestine. So the gallbladder basically stores it. Okay. So liver and gallbladder, these are a couple accessory organs that help aid the process of digestion of food. Okay. So these are some of the ones that are your accessory organs, as I like to call them. All right. That help with the food and the juices and secretions and the enzymes of all this stuff being passed through. All right. Your next organ it's called the pancreas. You probably heard the pancreas before. It produces a juice that contains enzymes such as amylase and insulin. Those are enzymes too, like the salivary amylase we talked about. That was in your mouth where you're building up saliva to help push the food down. All right. So these are enzymes that break down carbohydrates, fats, and proteins in the pancreas, and it secretes juices in this process. All right, looks like we have a couple other questions here. Like I said, please do not have conversations on the side, okay? So we were talking, I don't want to have to, please do not have conversations on the side saying hi to your friends, okay? Please, please just pay attention to what's going on in here. Ask questions regarding the class, okay? All right. So if you have any questions, this is time to ask. I'm almost done with some of the presentation part here, so I'm going to be moving on to the project here, which I'll be talking about what to do. So a couple more organs that I'll be going over for today regarding the digestive system. That's the new topic for this week. Is we're going to study all the body systems over the weeks to come. We did cells, then we went into plants, and now we're into the body systems, all right, as things get pushed and moved throughout our body along with how our body functions and works together with these parts. All right, now the path of digestion, just like I was mentioning, it starts in the mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestines, large intestines, and anus. Those are the paths of food getting processed throughout the body. And then these other parts help aid the path. Okay? All right. Now, I'm going to stop the presentation part on like what I was just talking about. The first, like maybe 20 minutes or so of this presentation has been on some of the things I've read to you about each part and each function of what they do in the breakdown of food into the body and the main parts here. So you do have a brain pop. I assigned it's due Friday. Okay. And the brain pop is 10 questions on the digestive system and also assigned the vocabulary with it. So that'll be due Friday. Now let me explain your project since that part got cut out in the video with Mr. Canaloo and I of the verbal part what I was saying. So you are going to create a project or a travel brochure. Okay. So what is a travel brochure? Is anyone in here can answer that that's in this chat room? Yes. Okay. If you're one of Mr. Canaloo's students, I'm going to say that over here. Yes, it means that you have to do the project there too. His class and my class are together on this. You are creating a travel brochure. Does anyone know what a travel brochure that's in here? I got a good amount of people in here, so I know somebody knows what a travel brochure is. Who could ask me or answer that question here? I got some people responding on the sidebar here. So, what is a travel brochure? Anybody? A travel brochure. Type your answer on the sidebar there on the live chat. What is a travel brochure? Say you're traveling down the highway, you stop at a rest stop, These sometimes when you go to the restroom in the rest stop, you see a bunch of like magazines and travel brochures. What are they? Okay, somebody wrote in here. A travel brochure is when it tells you where you are going. Very good. Okay. Not only where you're going, but what attractions that you might want to see, right? So Florida is a pretty much a big tourist destination area, right? There's a lot of different places to see around Florida, destination wise. You got Disney World, you got Universal, you got SeaWorld, you got all these parks down in Orlando. Plus, you got all kind of things to do around here. St. Augustine, you got the fort there, you got the beaches here in Jacksonville, you got Amelia Island, you got Fernandina Beach, you got Jack's Beach. You got a lot of different places to see. You got springs out in the middle of the state. You got Ocala, you got the Silver Springs, and all different types of places to see, right? Everglades, if you go down towards Miami. So think about some of the things that are in our state that people want to see. But you're going to create a travel brochure that explains the process of food traveling through the body, but kind of relate it to like you're going on vacation and on the sites that you want to see on vacation. And they could be multiple things. So you are creating a travel brochure from the start to finish of food in your body. So relate it to the food getting passed through like you're going to Disney World, getting on a ride. Make it interesting, okay? Kind of use some figurative language with it too, as well, with along with the science topics. So you are creating a travel brochure of the food passing through the body like you are going on vacation or sites that you want to see. Okay, so I'll kind of give you a little bit more examples. So um, think of trendy spots, exciting activities, okay, that a tourist might want to see while they're visiting each part that you're going to move the food from the mouth to the esophagus to the stomach, the small intestine, large intestines, all right, to it leaves the body. Okay, so during this activity, you'll visit each part and how it works, and then see how it nourishes throughout the body system, and then also maybe you could act like it's a kind of a commercial. You see some of those that kind of do that. See if I got a volume. So those are some things on the travel brochure within the body as food gets moved along. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right. Yes, as is food getting crushed through the mouth. Yes, and as it's going through, describe a destination. Looks like somebody wrote. Okay, best places to eat. Very good. You could relate that to places to eat, like you're going to stop somewhere to eat, and or going to the beach or going to amusement park. Like that is the part of the body. So still tell me the part that it moves to, the main parts that we went over here, but also kind of relate it to somewhere. Maybe you've been here in Florida or another location. Maybe you've been to another part of the country where there's all kind of tourist destinations, like California or New York or Texas. There's all kind of places to see in other states too. So you could relate it to other places or even other countries there too. Okay, like where you have been. All right, or like I said, as food's getting moved through, relate it to like make it interesting. Like you're going driving down the road and the food's going getting passed from the mouth to the esophagus. Like we're gonna have to stop at the esophagus where we're gonna go to Disney World, kind of relate it to an amusement park or a tourist attraction. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right, somebody said they're going to ace this. Good job. I don't know who that is. You state your name. I don't know who that is on here. Amber Nicole. I don't think that's one of my students. That might be Mr. Canada's students. So yeah, you're in the same class with this here too. So yeah, you're required to do the same project. Okay, Hannah. Okay, good, Hannah. All right, excellent. All right. Um, so good job. Anybody else have any other questions here before the end of our segment here for today on the project? You have a brain pop for my class. I don't know if Mr. Cantaloupe's class has the brain pop set up, but my students that are on here, please do brain pop. I'm taking those down as well. Brain pop and then due Friday, along with this project due Friday on making a travel brochure explaining the parts of food going down from your mouth through the anus, the process of digestion, all right, as waste, okay, like you're going on vacation. You're stopping at each part like it's going somewhere, okay? Like with each day on vacation, you might do something different. Maybe you have a beach day, maybe you go to an amusement park, maybe you're going out to eat, or you're going go-kart racing or something like that, related to like how it's moving, it's getting passed through, like you're going somewhere, you're going visiting, because the travel brochure explains places where to go. Okay, where tourists want to see the trendy spots, the exciting spots. So kind of make it a little bit exciting, make it with a little bit of flair. Be creative with this. Okay, all right. Any other questions? All right. All right, Gavin and Hannah, just keep it to yourself here with the going back and forth. Make it related to the questions of the class here that you may have. All right. All right. Does it have to contain pictures? No, I believe that's Jana who wrote that there. You don't have to take pictures, but if you want to include pictures, you can. You can make the pictures according to the part, okay? And it can make it according to the activity, like Disney World and so on. So yeah, you could include pictures if you wish. It makes it look with flair. You don't have to; it's optional. But also, we're looking for the research and what these parts do, along with a little bit of fun with the activity of explaining it, like you're going to an amusement park or a beach, or you're doing some kind of fun activity with family. Okay. So Brain Pop due Friday, and this project. That's kind of how I'm going to keep the format kind of going for the rest of the school year, as long as until we're back to school. If we get back at all at this end of this year, having projects due Friday, me presenting on Monday and Wednesday, and going over these parts and the functions and of each of our lesson parts, and then including you to do some kind of activity with it. So that's the way it seems to be working pretty good for me and for you guys. I don't want to bombard you with too much either, too, because you guys have work from other classes. But for science, that's what I want you to include. So we're going to be studying the body systems. Yes, due Friday. Yeah, so looks like you said, imagine yourself as a piece of food. Yeah, traveling through and going from one location to the next. So that's a good way to put it. Imagine yourself being that food. Maybe you're that apple or you're that steak, from your mouth, all right, passing through to your esophagus, to your stomach, to small and large intestines, and so on, like you're going to a different place on vacation, or a place to go, okay, like a travel place. So think of touristy places. You could relate Florida to it, other states, other places around the world, wherever they may be. Okay, make it creative. It can be France, be Egypt with the pyramids, or whatever, so make it make it kind of touristy that way, with creative, I should say. All right, due Friday on there. Excellent. Any other questions, comments, concerns for today? Traveling through a new place. Okay, yeah, that's a good way to put it there. All right, so yeah, the end place obviously will be the waste. Okay, um, so keep it classy too. Put it that way. Keep it classy as well too. All right, we understand we're being mature about this, as this is food getting moved from the mouth and passed on as waste. Okay. All right. Any other questions before I sign off for today? Still got about 12 people in here, which is good to see that number up there. So that's really good. All right. Okay. Looks like a couple people. Any other questions before we wrap up for today on the digestive system? So you can go back and listen to some of the parts I explained earlier. I'll be on here live again from 12 or 1 to 2, and then 5 to 6, kind of saying the same things, kind of restating some of this stuff. And then for the people that may have missed out, just to answer and ask questions, what to do. So if you already saw it once, you don't need to report again. unless you have questions and you want to pop in, but make sure that they're related to questions, not just to see who's in the chat room and chat on the side. So just make sure there are correct questions on this. All right, let's see. I have another question here. Wait, does it have to be a brochure? You could just make it in a paper, like a piece of paper, and fold it into like a brochure. And like fold it in like threes, or just kind of like taking a piece and like, kind of, making it like fold up, like a foldable type thing. You could do it like that, and then take a picture of it, what it looks like. Okay, you can make it creative like that. You don't have to. It could just be just a regular piece of paper, with like a brochure that way. So, very good. All right, let's look at a couple other people jumped in over here. Let's see. Let's see, Madison looks like has a question. So we describe the food going through the body. Yes, you describe, pretend you're a piece of food, and you're traveling through the body like you're traveling, like you're going on vacation to another place. So you can include that, make it creative. So you're pretending you're like a piece of food getting travel from the mouth all the way through the stomach and all the parts, and then out as waste. So as like you're going on vacation somewhere. It can be written like a story or no. Yeah, you can make it written like a story. Absolutely. And it can be an online, someone said an online brochure. Yeah, but not just copying an online brochure, but putting your own words into it. Yeah, you can make it like a story, but make it scientific though too. Like we're talking about stuff in science, but you can make it like a story, like it's getting passed through, and like you're stopping on vacation and going to different places. You could relate it like that too. So yes, be creative that way too. Good job. Any other questions? All right. Looks like somebody else came in. That's okay. If you're late, you can go back and listen to this earlier or come into my 1 o'clock one. So, um, yeah. All right. So whoever Jennifer is, I know of you. So I know you're one of Mr. Candeliz. Please keep the conversation to yourself here. All right. So, and Gavin as well too. All right. So make sure you are, um, we're following these directions in here. I'm only going to be on here for a few more minutes here, wrapping up this session here. So I do have another Zoom meeting to get to here shortly. So if you don't have any other questions, you may exit or leave any time. So I can see how many people are in here. It looks like I have about 10 people still left. So time is now to ask or ask any questions on what you are to do for this week. Okay, bye Carly, looks like, bye Gavin. So some of you guys are heading out, so good job for today, for coming in and checking in. All right. Okay, Veryl, you're in here. Hopefully you listened in on today. I see you on the bottom screen there. So make sure you go back and listen to today's lecture, what we're doing for your assignment for this week, due Friday. Okay. All right, bye Madison. Any other questions pertaining to the project? Okay. I will explain the project too also on a Microsoft team post. I'll write a little blurb on that too, so you could also see that as what to do for the project along with me explaining it to you too. So you have both ways to get that information due Friday for you guys. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments here before I sign off for today's session? Okay, well, I am going to sign off since will have another meeting here starting shortly. I will be back on at 1 to 2 o'clock today and also at 5 to 6 to answer any questions pertaining to the project and go over processes of digestion. So I'll be explaining that and going over that with you guys today. All right. All right. Well, have a wonderful day. I am going to sign off for today. So, good job for today, and I'll be in communication with you guys on here or on Microsoft Teams. All right. Have a good day. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.